Let's go back to the quarter life crisis. I interjected as you were sharing the story.
Yeah,
You were overwhelmed and felt the business now kind of starting to trap you.
yeah,
The lurch of this growth. We term the architect or the archetype the growth prisoner, the
yeah.
person
I
who has
saw
built
that.
a business which has actually enslaved them. So
Yeah.
tell me about this.
Yeah, well, you do. You get entrapped. You become a victim of your own success because what starts off, in my case at least, as just a means to an end in buying time before I could get an opportunity as a volunteer on a humanitarian project becomes this all-consuming monster. And now I have staff, I have obligations, I have clients who are depending on a service, I have debts, I have this prison without bars that really it, the walls close in on you very, very quickly. And so at 24, um, aware that actually this was only going to compound over time, this wasn't going to become easier. I did the unthinkable. I crossed the street one night, shaved my head at the neighbour's house, bought a combi van, which is, a camper van on wheels, gave the keys of my practice to a Kiwi who had flown over for a job, sight unseen, gave him 12 pages of policies and procedures and wished him all the best. And I threw my wife in the boot and we took off around Australia. And it was the genius in the madness was I was running away and I could blame somebody else for what was going to be an inevitable business failure because I was on holidays when this was all going to come crashing down. And I would drive this camper van into the service stations, looking at my wife saying, I wonder if the credit card's going to bounce yet. Can we get another tank of fuel? And the plan was just leapfrog the next tank of fuel until we run out of cash, expecting the whole thing to implode. But Brendan, the practice just kept growing. And the team at home would ring me and say, we need more staff. And 3 months into this escape plan, I'm actually at the top end of Australia. Like I live in Melbourne. So for your listeners who aren't familiar, I'm down under. And I've driven halfway around the country to the most northern part of Australia. And it's really wild, untouched land up there. And we're quite remote. And there is a massive electrical storm brewing on the horizon over Kakadu, which is one of our national parks. And I am just convinced I am not going back to this business, except I had a big revelation. And the only way I can describe it, not to get religious, but the only way I can articulate such a defining moment is I felt like God said to me, you can either complain about what your life could have and should have been, which was hoping to work cross-culturally in the, developing world. Or you could realize what I have put in your hand, which is a business model that is scalable, that is reproducible, that if you go back to Melbourne and you learn the principles of growth and you apply it to a service industry that nobody's cracked the code on yet, you will generate a commercial revenue stream in perpetuity that will help people far beyond you and your wife could do on your own. And I tell you, that is a compelling revelation. And not to overstate it, but I would say it is the most significant defining moment of this business story because it turned me from wanting to be an escapee from my own narrative to now feeling like I am the biggest advocate. I am a raving fan. I am a madman with an agenda, and I was hook, line, and sinker. I was ready to devote my life to this. And so
Wow.
you talk about when did the lights turn on? It wasn't because I educated myself. It wasn't great mentoring at the time. It wasn't like I was a commercial intellect. I just saw that business can be used for purpose. And what greater vehicle than to use a healthcare initiative to build a war chest to lift people out of poverty? I'm helping my patients who are at the same time, through a noble ethical business model, affording communities they're not even aware of a leg